What's going on, my Evolve St. Louis City fam? I know I've been gone for a minute, but we back in action. So as you know, I'm your girl Kelly, and I'm here to give you the lowdown, the rundown on what happened in St. Louis City government this week because my job is to attend the meeting. So you don't have to. We're going to get right to it because there's quite a bit to cover this week with the Board of Aldermen meetings, two meetings I attended there, and then also the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, aka the Board of E&A, not E&J, y'all, E&A. They also met as well to discuss the budget, the proposed budget for this upcoming year. So let's get right into it, shall we? So the first meeting I attended, it was the final meeting of the 2020-2021 session. Not too much was popping, but there was some legislation passed that I'm gonna highlight. So Board Bill 222, and this was really sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, and this is the Crown Act legislation. So this just ensures protections against Black and brown people to make sure they're not discriminated against in employment or housing because of their hair, natural hair texture, protective styles, all of that. So that was passed. Also, Board Bill 155, which was sponsored by Alderman Bosley, establishes a maximum speed limit of 20 miles per hour for folks traveling in residential areas in the 3rd Ward. And then Board Bill 238, this was sponsored by Alderwoman Murphy. It prohibits employers and labor organizations from advertising that individuals of a certain age, race, creed, color, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, religion, or disability are not accepted for employment or membership, to prohibit landlords from declining rental applicants because they are victims of domestic dating or sexual violence or stalking, or using such violence as a cause for termination of a lease, and to allow landlords to remove offenders and allow victims to remain in the residence. So, yeah, a lot there, but that was passed. So the second meeting I attended was the first meeting of the 2021-2022 session. We hear y'all. So there was a first reading of Board Bill number 2, which was sponsored by President Lewis Reed, and it accepts the federal coin that the city plans to receive through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Nothing big there. And then there were resolutions. So the one I'm lifting up, which proved to be controversial, was an amendment proposed by Alderwoman Annie Rice, which amends the Board of Aldermen rules. So her amendment to this resolution would require all committee meetings of the Board of Aldermen to include public hearings. I'll repeat that. It would require all committee meetings of the Board of Aldermen to include public hearings. So if folks are not aware, when we're talking about the Board of Aldermen committee meetings, it is up to the discretion of the chair of that committee whether or not they want to allow public comment. So this amendment will make sure that there has to be time allotted to allow for the public to provide their comments. And then the amendment would also allow electronic means of submitting public comments. So yeah, y'all, there's a lot of discussion back and forth from folks. I did kind of want to, provide some quotes so y'all can get a gist of where folks' head was. So Alderman Vaccaro, he expressed his concerns in that this would be, and I quote, taking power away from the chairman. Alderwoman Howard said she needed more time to review the amendments. Alderman Narayan said it seems un-American to me to not allow residents to provide their comments. Alderman Bosley, he expressed his concern regarding the time required to allow, all people that want to testify. He was just like, well, if you have 100 people testifying, then, what does that look like? How is that going to be carried out? And that the language needs to be tight. And we need to know what this looks like, again, if you have all these people showing up to testify. He also expresses concern regarding time frames, in particular when there's a tight turnaround on moving forward with things, different, emergency pieces of legislation, all of that. And in closing, he said, and I quote, "We need to take our time and digest everything." Because, you have new a board of aldermen joining and you have a new administration, all of that. Then Alderman Coder said, and I quote, "It's a bad look if we don't pass this." So all in all, and I lost the live feed because during this time also, Mayor Jones, she was officially sworn in as the new mayor of the city of St. Louis. So I kind of missed the live feed, kind of got lost in the sauce there. But I did go to Twitter, which is huge. And that's where I learned that this amendment, it did pass. However, there were quite a bit of nays from this vote. And the nays included Alderwoman Middlebrook, Alderman Bosley, Alderwoman Evans, Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Boyd, Alderwoman Boyd, Pam Boyd, and President Reed. But regardless, the amendment, it was passed. And then the final meeting I attended was the Board of Estimate and Apportionment meeting. Again, I'm going to call it the Board of E&A for short. Again, not to be confused with E&J, E&A, Board of E&A, y'all. So the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the fiscal year 22, so 2022's budget for the city of St. Louis. I'm going to highlight a couple things because I'm not trying to bore y'all with whatever, but there were some things that jumped out at me that I just kind of wanted to highlight. So with regards to the general fund expenditures, so this is like when we're talking about how much coin each department in the city of St. Louis, how much they have to work with to do what they need to do. So the biggest change was within corrections, because in the budget included was the closure of the Workhouse, y'all. Yes. So from closing the Workhouse, the city would save about $7.8 million. And that coin would be reallocated to the following things. So $4 million to help balance the city's budget, about $2 million to provide medical services and meals for detainees. About $1.3 million will go to support the Division of Supportive Reentry, which will support social workers, case management, mental health services, childcare, and other wraparound services. About $300,000 would double the Civilian Oversight Board budget to increase capacity of correctional investigators looking into acts of retaliation and neglect within St. Louis City jails. And then about $150,000 will go towards community visioning planning around improvements to the Workhouse, municipal courts, and the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department headquarters. Also in that particular, with the general fund expenditures, about $17.3 million in the federal coin we're set to receive would be used to kind of fill, there's still a gap there. So they would kind of utilize the federal coin to offset that gap, to close that. Then we're going to special funds. So special funds, again, we're talking about different taxes and stuff that contribute to different services and supports, certain pieces of the city's infrastructure through that tax. So one thing I wanted to mention, the economic development sales tax, which is 0.5% of sales tax on all retail sales made in STL City. And so this particular tax, it goes, most of it, 60% of it goes to support transit. And then you have the rest that goes to neighborhood stabilization, workforce development, city infrastructure, and public safety infrastructure. I really wanted to highlight that the public infrastructure bucket, it currently has $1 million that is not allocated. $1 million. Then I also want to highlight the capital improvements, part of like the budget. The ward capital account is fully funded this year. So really quickly, for folks that aren't aware, wards do have some coin, where they can kind of utilize to improve their particular wards. So It's pretty much up to the aldermen on how they spend this coin. So last year, my understanding was that account, it was cut, but this year apparently, it's fully allocated. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So really quickly too, about what does this mean with this proposed budget? What's the rest of the process look like? So the board of ENA, they will be getting input from the public tomorrow for sure. After that, then they'll submit this proposed budget to the Board of Aldermen like in early May. Then in May and June, the Ways and Means Committee of the Board of Aldermen, they'll go back and forth to discuss aspects of the budget. Public hearings will also take place again, so the public can weigh in on it too. And then from there, it'll go to the full Board of Aldermen. And something that I learned is that the Board of Aldermen, they can reduce any item on the budget as long as there isn't like a limit set already in a law, but they can't increase anything in the budget. They have to go through the Board of ENA for approval before that happens. So yeah, that's all I got for you this week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next week. Peace.